All right, let's go now. Well, we're going to Arlington. Kim's been waiting more than 20 minutes there. So, Kim, hi, and I know you have a good question for us this afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, good.
Um, yeah, so I was watching this guy the other night on YouTube who was doing some archaeological digging with dealing with the Amorites and how they were doing child sacrifices and burning babies in jars. And the reason they knew they were sacrificial was because they were at this high holy place. Anyway, so he went on to say that the Amorites were from Canaan and Canaanites were descendants of Cain. And if Cain was one of the first from Adam and Eve, and then everybody was destroyed in the flood except for Noah's descendants, which was Shem, Ham, and I can't remember the other one. But
Japheth,
how
yeah.
did the descendants from Cain, where do they come from after the flood?
Okay, all right. Yeah, I hear you. So, I mean, that's a lot. You definitely summarized a lot. But your question is ultimately, how did we procreate? The bottom line is you said so much there that I do want to kind of dive into some of that, and then we can talk about procreation and the planet and the population. I'll try to keep it brief, but yeah, you got the Amorites. They're mentioned right here in Leviticus 18. You can pop over to Deuteronomy as well in the 12th chapter, and you'll find them there as well. The Amorites are there. The Canaanites are there. Those are ancient people, and people groups, and definitely you're seeing them in the Old Testament. And you're also seeing some of their practices. I mean, you got child sacrifice in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. That is shown. So the Old Testament's very clear about that. And in fact, this is part of the reason you look in Deuteronomy 20, and God says, please drive them out, get them out of the land, drive them away from here. That's Deuteronomy 20, because of the child sacrifice and the paganism that they were involved in. And then, as far as the connection to Cain, I mean, you're not going to see all of that. Cain is a murderer. He kills Abel, so he's the first murderer. That's Genesis 4. And he was marked in some way, and he was then living in the land of Nod. You see that early in Genesis chapter 4 as well. But as far as, drawing a genealogy, like some sort of direct connection between Cain over here and then the Canaanites, well, just keep in mind, even though in English their names sound familiar, there's no real connection drawn in the Bible. Canaan is a region, a place, and Cain, C-A-I-N, in English is spelled differently and doesn't refer to that place in any way. As far as the first the first humans, and then the flood, and then repopulation, lots of believers believe that you got the folks that are in the ark after the flood, Noah and his family, and that they were able to populate from there, just as Adam and Eve and their offspring were able to populate. We don't know exactly how many kids Adam and Eve had, but it's interesting. Even as science continues to develop and we look at DNA and all of that, they keep coming back and flirting with this idea that we all came from one place. And in some of the recent scholarship, that is exactly what they're saying. They used to say, well, there was the cesspool, and there was the magic of the cesspool, and then the non-living cell just kind of magically sparked into a living cell, and then somehow that became intelligent beings and blah, blah, blah. And that was happening uniformly all over the globe. And now they're saying, no, actually, wait a minute, I think we made a mistake. It looks like, according to my observations, it looks like the DNA is telling it that we all came from the same place somehow. And so it's kind of funny to watch the science develop and for them to come to this conclusion when, in fact, the Bible has been saying all along, yes, hello, look over here, a mountain of evidence right over here. Um, but nevertheless, we love it when our science finally catches up with the truth of Scripture, and this is one of those cases. So, logically, I don't have a better answer for you than the family that was in the ark, that they populated over years and decades. And that's the population we see today. In fact, the 8 billion that we've got now is probably misrepresented. Recently, I heard that they've been miscounting and they're not able to count accurately. So populations explode, sometimes at rates much larger than we are able to even fathom or count. And so just know that. Some people, obviously some Christians have argued for a regional flood, a Mediterranean flood or a regional flood around those countries and regions described in the Bible, and that there were other people groups outside of that. I personally don't go there. I think that it's a flood where everyone was destroyed except for Noah's family. So then that leaves us with the only viable answer in that scenario is that Noah's family is the source. And I think that makes perfect sense over many, many lifetimes and generations. So thanks for your call today. And we covered Cain and the Canaanites and the Amorites and the flood and population count. So we certainly got all over the map there, literally. Thanks for your call. Reach out anytime.